Hello and welcome to another video. This is going to be a showcase video for doors that I built for 1.14, probably plus. I don't know if how many of these would work later. Most of them will. I don't use too many tricky mechanics. So anyway, I'm going to start with the small ones. This one isn't even a door, just a utility, but I think it's kind of neat. All the way up to the big doors over here. These things. Anyway, so I'm going to start over here. Actually, I'm going to start with this, which isn't a door, but it kind of looks cool in my opinion. As long as it doesn't blow itself up. I don't know if I built it right at this point. Yes, it works. I actually did kind of a challenge thing here. So basically, you can't make this jump, it's 5 blocks. So the goal is to either I try to cobble gen thing here, but if I do this, and come over here, the goal is to time your jumps. Time that way around. I'm not any good at it, I didn't try it very much. Nope. Let's try this one more time. Yes, I did it. Okay. Anyway, so that's the first thing I wanted to show. It's basically, I was playing around with the 113 mechanics. And I also did a thing, it's the last thing over here, where you put something there, and it'll trigger it and blow itself up. Basically a different kind of useless machine. That resets it. Anyway, so once again, this is probably the only other thing I'll show in the video that isn't a door, but it kind of uses some mechanics of trapdoors, so that's why I'm showing it now. You can see my testing there. Basically, you know, sometimes when you're working on a mob spawner, you want to have it be either a loot collector or an XP farm. And you can change that by just moving the floor 1 block up or down if you space it out correctly. Neither will be perfect, but just because water's unreliable, there's a lot of stuff like that, so I think this is pretty good. Basically, at the moment, this is in, I believe, XP farm mode. You can see that it's right here, and it's going to be, mobs will land here and have half a heart left. When you trigger it, just a simple system, puts it down 1, that, 1.14, you can actually go in if you want, but mobs will fall here, die instantly, and the loot will be collected by the hopper minecarts and put into the chest. And now, the system doesn't quite work for large systems because the rate is very slow, but that's that system for a decently low resource cost in my opinion, and it's fairly useful. Anyway, so the next thing I want to show you is, this is just refamiliarizing myself with how the system works, like how bigger doors than 2x2 work. So I built a 3x3 piston door. Nothing special, but that's just me learning again. Then I immediately decided to do a 4x4, which I think is pretty decent. I needed some interesting mechanics. Anyway, you can probably tell by now, I really like observers. Anyway, so, and then the next thing I decided, this thing is extremely slow and looks horrible, but it does work. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. And despite how slow it is, I kind of like the system that I decided on for it, because I condensed everything to groups of 3 movements. So you can see this one, I don't want to trigger any of it, but where's a good example? Like this one will trigger that piston, then that piston, then that piston. So either that'll spit out the block, push it up, and then not do anything, or pull the block, or not do anything, pull it down, and then pick up the block. So I feel like that, if I took the time to compact it, that would make this a much more compact system. It does mean it's a little slow, but I'm not too concerned about that. No, the next one is just 4x4 vault door that works on both sides. And I like what I did with this one. This is mostly me playing around with glass and the fact you can put redstone on it in 1.14. And I believe all of the designs except for that one, for the doors, and that one thing there that doesn't actually need to have it, don't use slime blocks. My goal was to make it more challenging for myself, so I had to figure out all the movements. So you can see that works pretty flawlessly. This is probably the most reliable of any of the doors I built here, just because it's really hard to accidentally trigger it wrong. Anyway, so I guess now we get into the big doors. These were mainly a challenge. I just challenged myself to build huge piston doors, and you can see here there's a lot of stuff going on. Probably more than it needs to, but it works. I wanted to make 3 tall piston doors, or hipster doors, that also look good. So this one isn't quite a hipster door because the redstone does go above the ground, but you could definitely make this wind up a little bit different. It just would require rewiring that I didn't feel like taking the time to do. But also I installed a system here, this little thing, to make sure that while it's opening or closing, it doesn't let you flick the lever, because that will break the whole thing. See that? You can see the this closes off and the light turns off. That pause there was unintentional. I still don't know what causes it. There we go. So that one works very well, and it's really hard to see and really hard to watch, but this looks awesome from the side as well. And I'm going to do my best to show you what this looks like from the side. I'm not sure how well I'll be able to do that. Let's see. I think that's what the lever is. Okay, are you ready? Let's see if I can do this. Also, before I do this, you can see the way I did it. This is the block storage right here, although they get moved around all over the place. And that's where all of the blocks end up going up. This is the fast one. That's the easy one. And now the other one is the long one. There, so you can see how all that works. So the that's that system that I worked on. You can see this is a lot of spaghetti redstone. I didn't feel like trying to make it compact. I just wanted to get it to work. So I built a circuit and then had to build everything else around it. It took a lot of rewiring in here. I love how it looks though. And everything in here is controlled by basically observer towers. And you can see that all of these lines are triggered by observers themselves. So basically, all I had to do once I figured out where all the pistons had to go is figure out where is just the timing, figuring out how to get the wires in there. So the yeah, one side effect of how I had to do this, there's some really interesting just ways that I had to make everything fit. The other one I think is also interesting, but yeah. So the see, I needed to use slabs here. It looks exactly the same. One of the reasons I decided on quartz, also just because it looks cool. So also ignore that in the background. We are taking care of a dog currently. Anyway, so that's that one. If I can figure it out, I'll provide a world download so you could play around with this, figure out how everything works, possibly make it more compact. But anyway, now to what's probably going to be the final thing of this video, except for that over there. I might include that. Actually, no, I'm going to do that first so that you save the biggest one for last. This one was me just playing around with the same mechanics I was doing the rest of the time. And I'm pretty proud of how small I made that, even though it's fairly simple. Anyway. This is the last thing here. Also, one interesting thing about the way I made this one is there's a system here which means that while it's running, it is impossible for the button to do anything. Even though it doesn't get physically blocked off like the glass over there, it works. Anyway, also this is a great spot for the screenshot right there. Anyway. This is much slower, but I think it gets prettier when you look at the rest of it behind the scenes. I think stuff is still happening. Oh yeah, I'll explain why there's this long delay at the end. Once I do the rest of this, I will. This one has an interesting behind-the-scenes bit. You just have to wait for a little while. There we go. The closing is much faster, but still slower than the other one, I think. It may not be slower. I don't know. There we go. So this one is, I did everything. You could hear how everything was just like pulse, pulse. This entire thing is controlled by a feed tape. You can see the red here is the, the red is the closing and the yellow is the opening. This one's neat because while definitely more bulky and slower than the other one, you can see exactly how it works, and I think the redstone itself is prettier. Like, doesn't that look nice? Anyway, so this whole thing is just controlled by this huge feed tape, and that's why there's the delay at the end of the previous one, is so that I could loop back. I didn't take the time to make this more compact at all. Anyway, and the way that the door knows when it's all the way open or closed and the feed tape has stopped moving is these observers. These cycle with the rest of the feed tape, and as soon as a sequence finishes, it just sends a pulse through here, which, one, stops the feed tape right here. I'll do another shot of this in a moment so you can see how everything works. And also, this is also what goes all the way over here and resets my little button halting system here. Also, you can see how the system works now. One, I needed a way to update the piston here. I discovered that this is a very good way to do it. But you can see that normally you hit the button, and that will go straight through the block. It'll trigger the system. However, it'll also, after a little bit of delay due to that observer getting stuck out every once in a while, it will also push this over, which will extend the piston and make it not work, and that also controls the light over there. And then when you can see when the observer gets triggered, it triggers this line here, which resets the button over here, and allows it to be pushed again. And I also know the entire system working from the side here. I think you can see how everything works from this angle, so it's really cool. Oops. Sorry, I forgot that there's stuff higher up there. While this is running, you can always check this out when I do the world download, which I'll figure out how to do after I'm done with this video. Or later today, I don't know yet. But you can see over here, these pistons are what trigger those rows of pistons in the actual door. I think, yeah, it's reached the end of the opening now. But I can show you how the timing works here. You can see that gets moved along with the rest of it. And it needs to be a single pulse. Anyway, so when that gets to the bottom there, you'll be able to see that sends a pulse there, which disables that at just the right moment. I had to do some interesting timing for that. And also reset the button over here. Sorry about that. I'll probably mute it out of the recording, but I don't know yet. Anyway, so you can see how everything works there. And the closing basically does exactly the same kind of thing. It's all blocks inside the glass. And here I will show you, as it goes through, those repeater lines are what trigger the whole thing. Anyway, and one side effect of how I had to do this, you can see everything has a lot of repeaters in here that makes all of the timings the same, so it would break it. But if you were to trigger all of these at the same time, every single one of these pistons would trigger precisely the same tick, which allows me to run all the timings without some confusion. So, anyway, I probably will cover some more stuff in this world in a later video, but for now, I think that's going to be all. So, world download will be in the description so you can figure out how these things work for yourself if you want, possibly make them more compact. And you can play around with a few of the things here. I still need to figure out how to do that, but I'll figure it out. Anyway, so thank you everyone for watching. If you like, please like the video, and if you want to see more like episodes, subscribe to my channel if you think I deserved it. And please hit the bell if you want to be notified when I make new videos. I'm hoping to alter my schedule a little bit so that it's not just streaming content. I'm going to do videos like this that aren't live streamed. So, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in another video or live stream. Thank you.